There we go. So we are recording now. This is
Okay.
great. So hi, everybody. We're back here today with a lovely new friend called Rory Spurgeon, who's based in Bude. He's co-owner of a company called Medicanna, and they have created a brand called Ethica, which is a range of CBD oils that we've been using in our office and that we really like. So I thought we'd kind of talk today a little bit about Rory's story about where they began and how it led him down this path, and a little bit about the difference between CBD and THC oils, because I think it's important to understand the difference in terms of what is a psychotropic drug and what is not, and the different uses that it has to support the body and support the mind with a natural method, really, which is another thing that we really like, because we want to focus on things that help your body rather than suppress your body. So hi, Rory.
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate your time. So maybe just give us a little bit of background about what led you down this pathway with your family and your experiences with your son and your girlfriend, which would be really helpful for people to know where you began.
Sure. So I first came across CBD in 2017, I suppose 2017, 2018. And my son was using it in order to assist him with some of the daily challenges, I suppose, which at the time he was finding more difficult for various reasons. And he found that CBD provided him with a more balanced state of mind in order to cope with the various daily challenges that were in front of him. And I was really impressed and keen to find out more about it. And it wasn't that far after that my son and I went doing some research to see what we could find out about CBD, where it came from, find out more about its benefits, how it worked, etc. And we had a coincidental meeting, I suppose, whilst we were in Amsterdam in early 2019, where we met a number of, I suppose, people that were really very much involved in the industry, people that were growing hemp in America, people that were extracting it in Switzerland, people that were selling it, that had their own life experiences with the product and how it was helping friends and relatives. And further to that meeting, we ended up purchasing a quantity of CBD capsules, specifically for the purpose of helping my father-in-law, let's say, with his situation. He was terminal with cancer, and we thought it might help him with how he was feeling, how he was dealing with his challenges, etc. Unfortunately, he passed away more or less at the time that we received the capsules, and my partner decided that she thought it might help her. She wanted to try. She was in a situation which for any of us would be very difficult, insofar as she's in a house. Her father had just passed away. She'd been looking after him as the main carer for about a year, and she found that the CBD capsules helped her greatly to organize all the different things that need to be done post a bereavement. And it's the kind of thing that personally I wouldn't want to do or wish anyone to do, but for Tony, my partner, it was something that was going to be especially difficult. So this amazed me, honestly, and I really wanted to find out more and see how, if there was a way that I could be involved in sharing that with other people. And it was around that time I was speaking to lots of people about it, and I found out that my business partners of today, David and Olivier, were also exploring different ways to get involved in the CBD industry. And how that had come about for them is that Olivier has a condition called ankylosing spondylitis, which is it's a very serious inflammation in the spine, almost like an arthritis in the spine. That's not a very good medical way of explaining it, but something like that. It's very painful, and the conventional treatments for that condition are debilitating. They are what's the right word? They're degrading, not degrading. It's like a downhill, a long downhill.
Very, very heavy medications.
Yeah,
the painkillers. Yeah.
So he'd taken the decision that he didn't want to go down this route. This is previous to us talking about CBD. And he had spent many years exploring alternative therapies, diet, nutrition. And along that journey, because he's in a position to be able to do it, he had done various analysis of himself, of his blood, speaking to doctors. And one of the things he found out along the way was that one of the supplements that he was taking, that he'd bought from what appeared to be a very reputable company, had caused his toxins in his blood to spike, heavy metals actually. So something that he'd bought, which he perceived to be a safe product, turned out it wasn't safe at all, and it wasn't of a good quality. So when he got to the point of finding out that CBD might help him, and he wanted to get it for himself, he went out into the market to try and find a supplier that could provide it with him so he could try. And he immediately discovered that it was very difficult to find a company that he could trust. He wasn't sure if it was that he could find someone to give him a CBD product that he wanted to take. And his ambition was to create a company and a brand that provided a range of products that people could trust, something that he would take, and that was obviously good for everyone else. And that's how Ethica CBD was born, essentially based on very, very strong ethical practice in every way.
I think that's important too, because even with some of the vitamins and things we recommend, it can be quite expensive when you're therapeutic dosing, because you're taking quite high amounts of things. But we always say to people, you have to look at where this has come from, because you want something that's a whole food base and not grown on synthetic petrochemicals, basically, because otherwise you're not doing yourself any favor. You think you're saving yourself money, but actually you're losing money in the long term because you're losing your health.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this whole thing is so important. And I think people need to understand that as well, that yes, these things do cost a bit more money, but in the long term, it makes a tremendous difference.
Yeah, and I can say I suppose our concerns, or the reservations that we might have had about some of the product was only amplified once we started to look under the hood. Once we actually went out meeting manufacturers, speaking to people in the market, we found out there was reason to be concerned, and a lot of bad actors in the market actually. So we really wanted to set ourselves apart, along with, there are other reputable companies, I have to say, and we wanted to take the business forward, because CBD, as we have found out now, can provide immense benefit for some people. And it's really important that we can find a way to improve the condition so that more and more people feel confident about trying it, can try it, and get a safe product.
And there's lots of, I think we need to kind of touch on the difference between the CBD and THC, because, it's funny because some of our older patients are horrified. They're like, what? You want me to have marijuana? And they think of like the drugged out, 60s and 70s. And, then you have to explain to them the difference. That no, we're not just going to, have you take some of this and have you sit in a corner stoned for a couple hours. That it's actually, it's completely different animal, really, between CBD. So do you want to maybe explain the difference between CBD and THC?
Well,
In simple terms.
yeah, I think it's quite useful to have a little bit of a bit of background. So before Prohibition, which was in the 1920s, as many as, let's say, 50% of all medicines contained cannabis oil, or a cannabis ingredient.
Hey. Like a lot of old products, like even cough syrup used to have cocaine in it. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, indeed. And the use of cannabis oil, hemp oil, hemp itself goes back, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And really up until the point of Prohibition, it was generally a sort of positive medicinal product, which was used to be beneficial. What happened was, after Prohibition and the sort of tarnishing, if you like, of the plant, there was a massive PR drive, I think, really, to make people really afraid of the plant. And as part of that, it was associated more and more with things like crime and other negative things. Is that because it was only a black market product, it was only grown for those characteristics. So the marijuana, if you like, or the cannabis that was available to people on the black market, over time became more and more a lesser medicinal plant and product, but more and more something that for recreational use. And how that comes about is, in the plant, you've got a number of different characters, a number of different parts of the plant and molecules. The part of the plant that makes you high, that causes these sorts of effects, is THC. And actually, between 1920 and now, recreational cannabis, they've grown it to have more and more THC in it. And that's all that's in it, more or less. But there's other parts of the plant, of the cannabis plant, one of which is CBD, which is like THC, it's a cannabinoid, but it's a completely different molecule. And there are others. It's not just CBD and THC, but they're the ones that are most dominant, let's say, depending on which type of cannabis you analyze, let's say. Hemp, which is a type of cannabis which is used historically to make rope and paper. It looks completely different. It's a very sort of tall plant. That will have much higher levels of CBD in it and very, very low levels of THC. So if you tried to have the effects of marijuana, if you like, by doing the same thing with hemp, it would be more or less impossible. You couldn't get these feelings. You couldn't get stoned on hemp. You'd need so much of it because there's so little amounts of THC, but it's got a lot of CBD in it. And most CBD today is actually extracted from the hemp plant. Now, because of Prohibition, we lost a lot of time in order to find out why the cannabis plant was so helpful, why it was such a medicinal wonder. However, exploration did start, and in the early 90s, a professor discovered something called the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is a biological system that exists within humans and also animals. And the endocannabinoid system, it has a function, let's say, that it communicates with the other systems in the body, like the hormonal system, the nervous system, the digestive system, the immune system. And the endocannabinoid system needs, it needs nourishment, let's say, like any other system in the body. We enrich our endocannabinoid system naturally by doing things like dancing or walking in the forest or laughing. You know, a lot of these things that we do naturally that make us feel more well, what's actually happening is we're nourishing our endocannabinoid system. And then our endocannabinoid system has the ability to influence the other systems in the body, like the nervous system, the digestive system, hormonal system, etc. Now, our body, what it's doing to nourish our endocannabinoid system, it creates endocannabinoids. So our bodies naturally create endocannabinoids in order to nourish that system and to help us to feel more well. Now, by coincidence, in nature, some plants create phytocannabinoids. So if you like, an endocannabinoid is like a biological cannabinoid created by an animal, a human. And a phytocannabinoid is a cannabinoid that's created by plants. And phytocannabinoids can also influence our endocannabinoid system. Now, THC, the one that you've heard about, if you like, the bad guy, it's not all bad, I have to say. But
some people call it the good guy.
some people call it the good guy, and it's all about, moderation and what it's used for and why it's used. But THC has a very profound effect on the endocannabinoid system. It stimulates the endocannabinoid system. And it's that stimulation of the endocannabinoid system in a couple of different receptors which cause these feelings of euphoria or numbness, etc. CBD, which is the one that we're interested in today, it doesn't have that profound effect on the endocannabinoid system. It's kind of an indirect effect, which to some extent we still don't entirely understand, what it does. We know it works. We know it's very helpful for certain different types of things. But the reason it's legal and the reason that it's safe is because it doesn't have this kind of profound influence. It doesn't stimulate the endocannabinoid system. And in a nutshell, if you like, that's how THC and CBD interact with the body, and that's where the clear differences are between THC and CBD. We actually had to prove within our scientific report, if you like, to the authorities in Europe and the UK, we had to show, CBD doesn't do what THC does. And again, that's why it's legal and that's why it's safe. So sorry, that was a very long answer to your question. I don't know if it helps at all, but well,
it does. Again, because it's interesting because we see a lot of kids with epilepsy and adults with epilepsy in the practice, and CBD having research and ongoing trials with it for younger children in particular, without the hideous side effects of some of the heavy medications that are currently used. So that's something that is of great interest to me, for parents to help their kids, but also showing the level of safety in it, in terms of, if a 2-year-old can take CBD oil to help calm and prevent some of the epileptic seizures, that's a huge thing. That something from nature can help their bodies in that way without the detrimental effects of some of the heavier medications. Obviously not in all cases, but there is research out there to show that there are benefits for that. So that I find that really interesting.
Our products are, registered as food supplements.
Yes.
And as part of that process, we have to commit to to basically only providing them to people that are over 18, and ensuring that our packaging, it's clear in that respect, that it's only for people that are over 18. As a sort of as a fundamental point, though, you're quite right. Actually, the reason that CBD has become famous almost, or that people start to want to find out more even about medical cannabis in general, is because CBD is the only thing that treats certain types of very serious epilepsy. And it's actually our scientific advisors who helped us to put together our dossiers for the Food Services Authority and the European Food Services Authority were part of the team that that brought about the licensing of CBD medicine called Epidiolex, which is specifically for these types of epilepsy. And interestingly, I mean, I've had a conversation with David Heal, who was part of that team and is advising us. And I asked him, you know, how does CBD work? And even he said, you know, to some extent we don't know, but what we were able to show when we were doing our trials was that it works. It works and it's safe. Yeah. And those are the important things that they needed to demonstrate in order to get the product approved as a medicine.
And it's interesting, so when they're dealing with children's medicines, a lot of them, they don't have a lot of trials on children's medicines because of the ethics. So what they do is just do it by weight and hope for the best. Right? So, you know, when it comes to looking at natural alternatives for things and being afraid of the natural alternative, it's a bit of a scratch your head moment.
Yeah, I suppose it's terrible for the children, but to some extent the real reason for the acceptance of CBD is because there were children who were suffering greatly, some of them having seizures, you know, many an hour in the worst cases, and nothing helped them apart from CBD. And I've spoken to one lady whose son was that type of patient, and he's now been seizure free for 2 years. Just
it's incredible, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Absolutely astounding that
yeah.
They haven't expanded that for a larger segment of that population that are suffering.
Absolutely. Yeah, an awful lot needs to happen to make it more available to more people that it can help.
Yeah. So yeah, and there are parents who obviously are a lot more investigative and willing to look deeper and take a deeper dive and challenge the system.
Yeah.
Which we've seen, you know, in the papers recently with Hannah Deacon's case and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of parents that are seeing it and pushing it and trying to, you know, the agenda is to help kids.
Yeah.
Help them live more fulfilling lives and have a better quality of life, you know, rather than look for the rescue drugs that they're using at the moment, which are basically horse tranquilizers, you know, which I think is quite dangerous compared to some of the things that is essentially a food.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, a lot of more investigation needed, you know. And the other thing, which I've when I was kind of looking into this, was looking at some of the neuropathic pain uses, and obviously the over 18s particularly, but with, you know, people we've seen who have phantom pain, who have chronic pain and nerve pain, which doesn't respond to many medications that are either over the counter or some of the prescribed medications. And I know they tend to use the GABAs for neuropathic pain in medicine, but what that does to quality of life isn't good. And, you know, we see a lot of people in their 50s and 60s who think they're going senile, but actually it's the side effect of the medication. So when you look at using CBD for some of the neuropathic pain syndromes and some of the, you know, severe arthritis syndromes like ankylosing spondylitis and potentially rheumatoid arthritis pain, that again, these are alternatives that are supporting a system to better itself and to work in a better way rather than suppressing something at the cost of other things. So, there's a lot of more investigation that needs to happen there. So, and more knowledge coming out to the general public to do their own investigation and their own research into things, rather than just kind of accept what's given in the first instance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the need for the research, as you say, is very clear. There are some studies, both in terms of arthritis and also neuropathic pain, which show benefits, but there could be an awful lot more. And I think my personal view is they'd show positive results. Often the issue here is a commercial one, because that type of research costs a tremendous amount of money.
Yes, we know that anything in natural healthcare, that's the problem. People say, oh, there's no research in that. And it's like, well, that's because there's not a lot of money in natural healthcare for that level of research to be done.
Yeah.
The research that is out there that has been done has been at a personal cost to people.
Absolutely.
Done it or taken part in things as a volunteer to try to help get that information out there to people.
The other issue is education. So there is information that it would be very helpful for many patients if only practitioners were more aware of things like CBD and cannabis. I mean, there are various indications that medical cannabis can now be legally prescribed by doctors, but they're not prescribing it. And the reason is they're not aware. Most medical schools don't teach about the endocannabinoid system. They're not provided with the information that would help them to sort of impart that type of, assistance. And to be fair, even education, to some extent is driven, unfortunately, by commercial interests as well. So hopefully things will change. We're trying to, as a company, provide good information for people to refer to. There's a limit to what we can say about what it can do and how it does that. So trying to find ways to sort of impart the information in an ethical way is something that's very important to us, and I guess it's going to be a long journey that we've only just started.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to touch on, particularly that we're seeing in our office, is help with the anti-inflammatory side, which is good. Sleep, which is another one, and stress and anxiety. And I think over the last 2 years in particular, some of our teens and early 20s have really kind of collapsed in heaps of stress. Because of what happened with their education system and having it collapse with exams, and then their entry level into universities or colleges, or even trying to find apprenticeships at a time when small business was shut down. And so it's been very, very stressful for them. So, and per se, I would like to see them cope with it with something natural rather than go down the medical route of the antidepressants, because the side effects of those are really scary. And I mean, granted, there's a time and a place for everything, but I think that should be the last line of approach. And I think more connection, counseling, time, and face-to-face time, really. And things like the CBD stuff, which the calm can help a lot by not suppressing something within them, but helping them to support their best selves, in terms of their brain function.
Yeah. I suppose it's quite useful almost to refer back to what we were talking about, the endocannabinoid system. And insofar as we talked about how the body naturally creates endocannabinoids and how that can create a sense of well-being, whether that's, as we talked about, laughter, walking in nature, going for
breathing.
Sorry?
I'm always harping on about breathing. Remember
breathing.
to breathe.
Breathing. I mean, I do breathing exercises 3 or 4 times a week in the morning, and it's amazing the difference that can have on my well-being, including things like anxiety, stress, like mental strength. For me, if I do a good breathing session, the effect that will have in terms of my mental strength throughout the rest of the day. So we know that these things have an effect on our sense of well-being, and we now understand that part of the picture there is our endocannabinoid system. And we also know that CBD has a positive influence on the endocannabinoid system. So when you talk about the difference between some medicines which suppress symptoms or suppress thought or whatever, the difference here with CBD is that we're helping the body to perform better or more naturally. And the important word is balance. So a lot of issues, whether it's medical, mental, etc., the root cause of that is imbalance in some systems, and the endocannabinoid system assists to bring the body into a state of balance. Now, I think for some people, particularly when they first hear about CBD, it's almost unbelievable, because they're like, well, hang on, that guy's taking CBD to help him sleep. That one's helping it with anxiety. This person's helping him with pain. How is that possible? Because we're programmed almost to believe that you take something for something. It's a drug for a symptom, which is sort of, if we like, conventional medicine. And things like diet, exercise, many natural supplements, vitamins, etc., they're different in the respect of they nourish the system and help us to work more naturally, to be more normal. And normal's not a good word, but CBD, if you give it to someone that is really, really well and everything is working fine, it's not uncommon for them to say it doesn't do anything. I've tried it, it doesn't do anything. And that's because it won't do anything if there's no imbalance, if you like, for it to be somehow affecting or influencing. Now, in order to assist our partners and also the consumer, because there was this kind of weird confusion about CBD, what's it for? How does it do it? I need something for me. What's my problem? What's the right CBD for me? So we created a range of products, which CBD is the core ingredient. We use an organic coconut oil as the carrier oil, which it gives it a very sort of smooth, kind of silky taste. And then we've added other ingredients in quite microscopic amounts to some extent, botanicals, which you might say direct that product in certain different ways. So the calm product you mentioned, the other ingredients have been formulated, designed to help calm, to help with a sense of calm. Our night product includes a lot of different botanicals that you won't have heard of necessarily, but also chamomile. So chamomile is something you might have heard of. It's something that's very commonly used for calming, nighttime. So, and we've got 5 products like that. We've got one that makes you feel more bright, which is called Day. Another one which is specifically to do with your body, and you use that word inflammation, which has got things like ginger, curcumin, and other botanicals. So that's what we wanted to do with that range of products, and that's why CBD, that's one possible explanation for why CBD, as you say, helps to create this sort of more natural sort of feeling of well-being.
And I like that. And it's interesting because, again, we touched on before we started recording about, being in my background philosophy of the body is capable of healing. What it needs is support and not suppression. using CBD in different instances for different needs of the body isn't that much different, being a food source really, than taking a vitamin B complex if you need it for, bringing your energy and bringing your body back into balance, or magnesium, vitamin D, the things that we use to help balance the body from the inside, and sometimes you do need support from that, because particularly with modern diets, they don't contain a lot of the nutrients that we need at the moment. So we do often need to supplement for that for many people. And it's part of a diet really to help balance the system, in terms of the chemistry or the emotional side or the physical side of things. All of those things need to be in balance. And when one is tipping out of balance, the others suffer. So, being able to bring that in as something more natural and well-sourced to support people, I think is a good thing, and it doesn't take the place of dealing with what's in front of you and finding ways of helping yourself with stress, or helping yourself eat better, or get more exercise, or learning how to breathe. It's not a replacement for that. It is something that is just part of that system of core support that helps you express your best self, and that's really what we're after, rather than kind of suppressing things so you don't care about it, that kind of thing. So,
well, we can be our own worst enemies, right?
yes, we can.
So the world around us can look far more challenging and be much more difficult to deal with, not because of what's outside, but because of what's going on inside. And we can help that a great deal by the way we live our lives, and also by what we put in our body with a good diet, with exercise, etc. And our products, they're all 100% natural. It's all food grade. It is food essentially. It's just got a bit of a hypey thing attached to it at the moment, but it's just food, just like anything else that you eat for your health.
Yeah, and I think the difference is between using a supplement or a marketed product like Ethica is that kind of like, say vitamin C, people are like, oh, I'll just eat more oranges. I'm like, well, you probably have to eat about 1,000 oranges to get a base dose of like 2,000 milligrams or something like that. Because if you have 25 milligrams of vitamin C in an orange, that's an awful lot of oranges.
Yeah.
And same with, hemp seed, or which part of the plant you're using, particularly flowers. How much of that would you actually have to ingest to get the oil, which would make things easier. So, and that's, so yes, you can get a lot of this stuff from food, but you're going to have to eat it in far higher doses than are probably tolerable for your gut, than using a supplement, which has already kind of made it a very, that made the dose correct, basically.
Well, we're so busy as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're so busy, we don't have time to go shopping and find all the different types of food, and then to cook it, and then to eat it. So it helps to have supplements that can make taking them on more easy. Like I have smoothies with all different types of fancy ingredients, which now I can get from the health food shop, and I can put it in a blender and Bob's your uncle. So yeah, we've only got so much time in the day, right? So things that can help to get us what we need quickly and easily are vital, I think.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. I think that's great. So I think down below, I'll post your website so people can have a look through that as well, and look at some other sources in terms of information about CBD and stuff like that, which would be helpful for different things.
That's very helpful. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Marianne. It's been lovely speaking to you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks, Rory.
Okay.